So hello, everyone. I'm going to get us kicked off. We're going to have some folks kind of coming in throughout the next probably 15 minutes. It always happens. I just wanted to say welcome and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Heather Van Helvoort. I'm a senior product designer based here in Seattle, Washington. I currently live in Kirkland, like Angela. And I've been a member of Ladies at UX for about 2 years. Oh, Rosie's here. Hi, Rosie. For about 2 years now, I help with event planning and community outreach, and we're super excited to have you here today. I think we've got a great dialogue lined up and some really awesome panelists. So I just want to tell you really quickly about Ladies That UX. We're a volunteer-run organization with chapters worldwide, including our Vibrant Seattle chapter, which has over 4,000 members. We offer a welcoming space for women from all experience levels to share their stories, their challenges, their successes. Throughout the year, we host a bunch of different types of things, both virtual and in-person learning events. We've had some networking mixers. We had a Christmas party last year that was fun with cookies. We do all sorts of things throughout the year, and we really focus on fostering an inclusive environment. So we try to really make every chance available to folks to really kind of connect and grow with new people. So you can find our community on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Meetup to stay updated and get involved. And I'm super thrilled to tell you guys about the three panelists we have tonight. I personally know all three of them, and so I'm super excited. I'm going to kick it off with Sam Brittany, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Heather. Sam Brittany is my name. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently the director of UX for a company called Appfolio. It's a real estate platform focusing mostly on property management. So I know we got some good representation for real estate here tonight. Um, my foray into design actually started in college when I attempted to have a career in architecture. I wasn't that good, had a lot of imposter syndrome. So I ended up working in software and spent a good chunk of my career as a product manager when UX wasn't really a burgeoning field. So as a product manager, I was also doing wireframes on the side, and eventually came to the point where I realized that that was where I really wanted to be. So I grabbed my scrappy wireframes and actually went back to a boot camp, design lab, and beefed up my portfolio. And I've been in design ever since, and I love it. I think
Nice.
I'm passing over to Joey.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Joey Chung, based in Austin, she, her, and I'm currently a senior director of product design at realtor.com. So that's the real estate connection here. I'm leading the teams responsible for the consumer experience. So the web and mobile apps for home buyers, sellers, renters, anyone that's like looking through homes or looking to sell their home. And all of the tools that we support of people navigating the home buying, selling process. How I got into the design in the industry in general, I started as a web developer designer. This was a long time ago. It's back when you kind of had to do both. But I was really frustrated with how I was spending so much time trying to get things to work, but I really just wanted to design. Like I wanted to design. So I went to switch my majors in college and I switched to graphic design. And that was all like focused on communication design, visuals, all of the things that are basics of like design. But then when I graduated and I realized I didn't really like graphic design. I didn't really want to do like the logos or just that. I wanted to make things work again. So it's kind of this ping-pongy path to get there, but moved back into tech and started designing mobile apps. It was like perfect timing because mobile apps became a thing. Everyone wanted one. I worked at some agencies that were really had so many clients. So I got a lot of experience in like UX design, and we weren't calling it UX back then. It was like interaction design or visual or experience design. You guys know this as a thing. Anyway, so yeah, and I've been here, for a couple of decades now, and really excited about what I do.
Thank you. Juhi.
All right. Thank you for having me on this panel call. So my name is Juhi Sodani, pronouns she, her. What I do, so I'm currently head of UX and design at Protect AI. Protect AI, we're building a platform for AI security. It's a very, very new space with AI coming up. So our platform basically protects ML models and LLM applications from threats such as prompt injection, malicious code, etc. They've built a bunch of scanners. And my team right now, we are 6 product designers building that in Seattle. So we are located in Seattle as well. Background, how I got into UX design. So I actually come from very traditional graphic design background. I did my undergrad and my grad both in design. I did graphic design for a while, branding, marketing. I was actually very bad with branding. Like my logos were not working and not sticking. And I actually found a really good mentor in Mumbai at the time where she said, you should try UX design because I did have a good inclination with tech. I was able to read HTML, CSS, and do all of that good stuff. So I got introduced to Parsons in New York, and I went to Parsons for my design management. There's actually, even at Parsons, I was in the wrong course. There's a technology course, which I should have done. So for everyone who wants to do it, do that one. But I ended up meeting a lot of folks over there. I specifically started working on DevTools. Thank you to New York. So started my journey in DevTool 10 years back, and I have been working as a UX designer now on DevTools for 10 years, including New York, Los Angeles, and now Seattle. So yeah, that's been my journey. Designer, but not very visual designer, more UX technical designer on my side. And I really do rely on my lovely team to cover up on my gaps. But yeah, that's kind of my background.
I love it. That's awesome. One thing I wanted to let everyone know is that you're welcome to leave some questions in the chat. We have Prabha with us tonight. She's actually one of our co-leads for Ladies at UX, and she's my awesome wing woman tonight. She's going to be taking all of your questions, and she'll kind of get them through to me, make sure that we have them. So feel free to keep the chat open, drop questions. Prabha is here to help out. And so she's going to be on that. And then the other thing before we get started, I just wanted to kind of let everyone know how we kind of put this together. We kind of did little buckets of kind of how we thought this could be helpful for everyone. So, deciding to move into leadership after you do it, like what are some of the kind of, things to help you along the journey. So we broke it up in a couple different ways. And then we also have some references, excuse me, not references. What is the word I'm trying to think of?
Resources?
Yes. Thank you. We also have some goodies for you at the very end. So some books and some different websites that you can check out that can hopefully help you also in your career path too. So the first part of this is deciding to move into leadership. So I wanted to kick it off by kind of asking Joey, what motivated you to take the leap into management from being an IC?
That's a good question. And it's funny because of the way this section is framed, like what made you decide to get into management? I was thrown into it. It was like against my will, which is funny because I actually hear this is a common thing that happens. But I was already leading projects and initiatives and working with a lot of teams, and everyone else was like, oh, you should be a manager. And I just didn't know if that was right for me. So I just was like, no, I'm not going to do it now. And then at some point, they were just like, I was voluntold, like, you have to manage this. You have to lead this team. You're so good at this, blah, blah, blah. And I really did not feel it, but it wasn't until I actually started like as a manager that I like felt like it was the right thing for me. But it's one of those things where you don't know what you're getting into until you get into it. But you kind of know in that other people will tell you. Like they will see the leadership qualities in you. They will see you as someone that they would trust as a manager. And those are kind of like how I would say the timing would be informed by. But yeah, not everyone can like decide, I guess. It's just one of the things that one of the paths.
So it sounds to me like it was fairly organic for you. And the one thing that I think is really interesting, and I hope someone on our panel will talk about it tonight, is there's a very big difference between leadership and management, and they're not the same. And I think a lot of people sometimes will confuse the two. So hopefully we'll talk about that tonight at some point. But I love what you were talking about, Joey. That's great. Sam, I would love to ask you, how did you know it was the right time to transition?
Oh, great question. Opposite from Joey, I knew from when I was in college that people management was something that I was very interested in. And I think it was through participating in student organizations and like coaching soccer, things of that nature. I found my superpower in helping other people figure out what they were, explore their curiosities. So it's like, for me, the drawing out the curiosity in others was my excitement. And that's kind of learning that young was great. But then I think for me, I've transitioned several times throughout my career into management. So I've been IC manager, IC manager, IC manager. I think in summary, a couple of things around timing. One is I've taken advantage of opportunities. So where I was in an IC role and I didn't see that there was an opportunity for a path, for example, if I was on a team, where there was an opportunity, somebody in a nearby group, when somebody went on leave and I volunteered to manage that team while that person was on leave. And so that gave me some hands-on experience. It gave me resume experience and was one door in. With my current role, I intentionally joined Appfolio when they were opening up a new office. And so I was the first designer there. And so I knew they were planning on growing. So the intention was join as an IC and then be able to make the transition. And in that, it took about a year, which was great. And in that time, I was able to demonstrate skills to show them that I was ready for management. So such as, mentoring other designers. We work in embedded teams at Appfolio, so leaning into trying to help teams grow. So around coaching, things of that nature, some of those skills that, being able to demonstrate those made it easier for them to say, yes, you're ready for management. I think one of the hardest parts is, especially if you're ready, is a lot of times, if you think about it, you have your skill set, your strengths, and then you have your passion and interests. But then there's this third piece about business readiness and business need. And a lot of times you can't control that, right? So you might be ready, but the need isn't there. And so that's why, trying other ways to demonstrate your skills, if you like the company that you're with, is one way to kind of set that intention.
Okay. So it sounds to me like it also could be about like executive presence and being, there's a lot, I feel like with management, there's a lot of not only about your skill set and not only be about being great with being able to manage people, but I feel like influence feels like a big part of that. And I don't know if you have any thoughts around that, like being able to influence not only your team, but maybe sideways and above and below.
Absolutely. And I think that actually gets into your next section about responsibilities and you think about what it is. So I know we'll touch on that. I'm good. You're always good at connecting the dots, Heather.
Oh, good. Okay. Juhi, I have a question for you. So what were your biggest fears about becoming a manager?
That's actually such a relevant question for me because I spent 10 years really inside Sketch and Figma all day, every day. So I'm one of those design system nerds who would create buttons for the sake of creating buttons and 10,000 of them because of the love of the tool, love of the craft itself. So for me specifically, it is still a struggle. I'll be honest. I'm still going through that transition. So one thing is, yes, your technical depth, you're going to get compromised on from IC to manager, because in IC, for example, you're creating a component by yourself, but as a manager, you need to build the system to create the component, right? You're not doing that. You're not the hands in Figma anymore. So that is one of the biggest fear. It was a strategic choice for me to join this specific team because this specific team is smaller. That means I'm still pretty hands-on. I still have opportunities to get into Figma, catch up to the latest designs, contribute. There are a few strategies that we use, at least for the current team, is working sessions weekly. So for each work stream, we do like a 1 hour, and it's open to all designers really in the company. 1 hour, it can be FigJam board, Figma board, however the lead designer for that work stream wants to do it. But everyone has the opportunity to go in. So that's a way to cope with that. Make sure that you learn the latest, updates in Figma. You understand what properties are, what variants are, what tokens are, what are the new updates and new plugins that are coming. And to be honest, my team has been really kind. They share a lot of latest stuff with me always. So those are the sessions where I cover up. But yeah, where your biggest fear, if one thing you want to point out, is your technical depth. I think that's going to start getting a little lower just because of the other responsibilities that come with management.
I have heard that also from engineers, by the way. I don't think it's for every particular field, right? Like we all go through it. So I can totally empathize there. Okay, so for the next part here, we're going to talk about kind of challenges of leadership. And I'm really excited about this part because this is where I feel like, again, we can talk about that influence and we can talk about like, how we can start navigating those ways to really kind of improving being a leader and, getting into that position. So navigating new water. So how do you handle the shift from peer to peer, especially when managing former colleagues? And I'm going to direct that at Sam.
Yes. So at Folio, when I became a manager, I similar to what Julie was saying, I started out as a player coach, which is great, right? Because you still have one foot in the pond. So it feels a little less daunting. But my first direct report was a peer. And it's very interesting because it definitely is all about the relationship. At least it was for me. It was rather than, and I like to think I'm not much of a micromanager. Again, I like to pull out the best in others, so I just get curious and really try and help them find their strengths. But so it was all about, it started out slow, but it was very much like, hey, how can I help? Hey, could we pair on this? Because I'd love to get your take. And then eventually finding out where I could help them as a designer in terms of their growth. So that kind of gets back to, Heather, what you were saying about, and it is that line between management and leadership, but you absolutely are thinking about how you're helping that person grow, not just to deliver a design. And so by me pairing with them, not only sharing, but also being willing to learn, I think was really critical. And then also recognizing that every direct report you have is unique. Somebody once I was talking to somebody recently, and we are talking about skill sets you need for a manager, and it really is you have to have those personal skills. You have to understand, like, for example, the different perspectives that people bring to the table when they come to work with you. It's important to understand things like neurodiversity, because it is much more about helping that person get to where they need to go and obviously connect with the business goals. So with former colleagues and peers, it's definitely that balance of, supporting where can you fit into to help them learn, but then how can they help you as well?
Yeah. And also I would imagine that there's folks that have different work styles or approach to the work. And so I would
100%.
assume I've actually heard that recently. I had a friend that's a manager and they made a comment to me that they manage everyone on their team very differently. And
Yep.
so it's interesting. It feels like you kind of have to be willing to pivot and navigate and know that, like, this may work for, Jenny, but it may not work for Jim or whatever. So
Yep.
I totally understand that. So I'm going to ask Juhi a question. I'm curious, how do you deal with imposter syndrome in a leadership role? This is something that I feel like is such a thing we're always hearing about. Imposter syndrome is really hard, I think, especially for people in tech, and especially for women. So I would love to hear how you navigate that.
Yeah, of course. That's a very good question. I actually want to make sure that I'm aligning with the question correctly. So imposter syndrome in this context would be you kind of self-doubting yourself and you feel like you're not doing the right thing. You're always questioning your action. Is that the question?
That's it. And I think we all have it in tech, but like I said, I think women tend to doubt themselves more. And not that men don't, of course, but I do think that women tend to do that a little more. So I would love to hear, like, maybe, how have you dealt with it? And do you have like recommendations on maybe overcoming, and how do you talk yourself out of that?
That's very interesting. I actually don't. So I change my strategy every year, depending on where I'm at and what are my personal goals, what are my professional goals, etc. For this year, at least, what I think I'm doing is I'm gonna learn and live with it because it's going to be true. And it's not just as a manager or as a designer. I think in different roles for all of us, you can be a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a lot of times you question whether you're delivering the value, and especially for women, right? Because we do tend to put a lot of pixel perfection in our actions always. So we want to make sure everything is, your 8-point grid, everything is going to 8 pixel, 16 pixel, 24. So I think what I'm doing is, one, learning to live with it. And the reason is, this is just a story from my previous CEO that I worked with. I worked for a dev tool company. It's a billion-dollar company, pretty big. And I was part of their product marketing team, actually. They were managing a website that was 10,000 plus web pages, so pretty massive size. And one thing that, the company went public, it became really strong. Obviously, everyone wanted, better promotions and comms and this and that. And he shared this really nice story that, I became a CEO for the first time in my life. And the only day I will ask for my comp and promotion is after 3 years in the job. And the thing that he said is you gotta do the job first before you start asking for things, because you're also learning as you're doing, and you gotta give yourself that time and space to learn and grow. And that really stuck with me, really, for that role and for this role as well, is give yourself time. It's okay to feel a little uncomfortable in positions, but be a student, be a moderator, and be an expert, but choose the topic where you're going to be, but depending on your expertise, right? So in some calls or some features, you might be a student. You might not know that technology at all, and it's okay to ask questions and learn. And some technology, in some way, you might be an expert. You might have done that project 50 times. You know what to do. You might be a moderator in some. There are two people who knows it. You're kind of in the middle. You're just getting the knowledge in and getting the UI out. So yeah, I feel like that's my strategy. What I do recommend right now is it's okay to feel that. It's okay to be a little uncomfortable. Don't feel like you're the only one. You will be in that position every time you take a new role. It's just going to happen. But, try to have different hats. Learn, ask questions. Don't pretend to know everything. I don't, certainly, especially in dev tooling. If you all are familiar with like the complexity of like ML models, like machine learning models in themselves is such a complex topic. So you got to stay grounded. Yeah, so that's been my strategy. Be a student, be a moderator, or be an expert, and change your hats depending on the situation.
Yeah, I love that answer. That's a good one. Okay, so what are some common mistakes first-time managers make, and how can they be avoided? I'm going to ask that to Joey.
That's a good question. Because nobody knows how to be a manager until you're doing management. And the first time you do it, especially transitioning from an IC, you're used to doing everything yourself. And now that you're a manager, you're imagining doing everything yourself. And so that is one of the first like common things I see in some of the managers that I've transitioned from IC to management. But I also did the same thing. And then you get overloaded and you're not able to do the work. It's definitely a mindset shift to like learn how to delegate and set the right structure for other people to do the work, and then you come in right whenever it's ready to review and like shepherd things along, but you don't need to do all the things yourself. And then being very good at prioritization and that type of thing will help.
So I have a follow-up to this because
Yeah.
you said something just now about being able to delegate. And I know some people, myself might be included, that sometimes I just like to get things done. And especially when you're close to the end of the sprint, you got, whatever it is, right? How do you take yourself out of it and learn to delegate more? Like, is there like something that you just have to, I don't know, get past, that you can get over that hump to where you are comfortable delegating?
Yeah, there's like a couple of different viewpoints you can think about that. One is you now you're a people manager. You have a team. You're responsible for growing and developing those people, and they're not going to learn if you just do their work for them, right?
Yeah.
Like your role now is to have them get the experience themselves and then be okay. That's the other thing. Be okay if they fail or they do it differently than you would, but it may just be a different path to the same end result. That is another one. And managers always, especially first-time managers, feel like they failed when their directs fail, but sometimes it's a learning opportunity for them to learn and grow, and then they're going to be able to pass those learnings on to other people. And I think those are kind of the big barriers. I guess the other one too is like feeling like you're putting work on other people and like feeling a little guilty about that. But you got to remember what they're getting out of it as well. And it is sometimes experience. It is their ability to like, they can lead their own work. And then you're still giving your guidance. You still have your hand, your leadership in there. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. So I want to shift now and kind of talk about navigating responsibilities. So I'm going to ask Sam a question next. How do you balance advocating for your team while managing company expectations?
Mhm. It can be hard sometimes. I think, especially when I first started out in management, and like a recent example came up where, um, yeah, there are things that maybe our administrative, like in our company in design, we do status updates on a bi-weekly basis, and we do them visually and just to try and get the word out about what's going on. We do them in Figma. And recently, my boss went in and made some adjustments and was like, this needs to be this size font, and really kind of made some tiny tweaks. And as managers, our job was then go to our teams and say, okay, you need to make these tweaks. Well, everybody grumbles and complains about having to do these status updates. So like it's coming in, and sometimes I kind of want to be like, oh, this is dumb. We have to make these updates, but you can't do that anymore, right? Like you can't be that pal anymore, or even as something as minor as that. I mean, you can certainly, obviously this is an example where you could be soft and be like, hey, I know this isn't everybody's favorite task, but just remember, like, the CEO is actually looking at this, so we want to put our best foot forward. But it is kind of funny. I think sometimes where you can think about that line. I think a couple of things really stand out for me. One, I've been lucky enough to find companies where my values align personally with the values of the company. And that's a big one, because all the companies that, especially at Folio, I'll speak to the present, we have really strong values about doing the right thing by our customers because it's the right thing to do. And also that pertains to employees. And a couple of years ago, we were about to roll something out that would have been harmful. And we spoke up as employees that wasn't the right thing to do. And so it was an opportunity for me to partner with my team and speak to, the rest of the company about, hey, this is why they're saying it. So almost kind of like becoming that dot connector translator. So sometimes you find yourself in the middle of that advocacy, and it's a great opportunity, right? Because you do see both sides. But I think it's just, you have to pick your battles too. You certainly can't take everything, but you do have to have a foot in each pond, and you have to be very considerate of that. I think as a manager, when you're communicating and advocating.
Okay. Juhi, what are some strategies for gaining executive buy-in for UX initiatives?
Yeah, of course. So some of the strategies that we've used recently is UX initiatives should be connected to company initiative, because we've done all the exploration where UX kind of moves it on its own, but it doesn't, that's not the reality. We have to move with company for sure. So you have to find opportunities where UX will be connected to the larger company initiatives. There are actually great project management tools out there that helps you do product management. Linear is something we use extensively. GitHub also has project management options. So yeah, the tool is basically built to do that. So one is, yeah, definitely connect your UX initiatives with company initiatives, because a lot of times they will connect, because your UX initiatives should be motivated by customer pain points and helping out the end user. So at the end, it is in the benefit of the product to implement that. Now, how do we do that is to create, there was a topic of influence in the start of how do you, create influence in the company. So one way I think we're doing as a team is a partnership, really building strong partnership with product and with engineering, because the pod actually moves together. There's design, engineering, and product management. So at all times, everyone needs to be aligned. So create partnerships, have a lot of workshop sessions, have a lot of user testing, focus groups with those teams. So everyone feels like they're heard and, their contribution is there. Second is creating a lot of transparency. So definitely I recommend we use a lot of project management tool actively. We actually follow design sprints. So all our work is divided into sprints. We are dedicated with 2-week sprint and we deliver the design. So what that does is everyone starts trusting the team now. So when we say something, any of the designers really in the team, when they say something, everyone believes it. They are actually listening. All the PMs. And we have currently for this specific company, there are offices across the globe. So even if someone is pinging someone in, say Germany, there will be a response within 12 hours. So it's never going to be that. So that's the trust building that designers would need to do. And then I think the fourth one that we've been doing is getting close to the customers. So sit with GTM is your go-to-market team. Listen to them, listen to what customers are saying, and then connect that with the product team. Connect with your product managers, talk about it, investigate that, and then see how you can create UX initiatives through those pain points. But I'll give full credit to the tools we're using. Linear is, big shout out to that product. It's really done really well, and it's helping us a lot with the connecting UX initiatives with company initiatives.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about, you're always putting the customer first. You're always making sure that I love that. I think there's, especially as we've talked about, I mean, everyone's always seeing how research has been struggling a little bit lately. Like I know a lot of researchers have been let go in their roles. And so I'm really glad to hear that, even that you're really trying to make an effort to get sure that you get, those research strategies out there and that you're getting the user's voice, the voice of the customer up front. That's great. Actually, let's see, Joey, how do you maintain a design-led perspective in a leadership role? So how do you keep that hat always on?
Design is one of those industries where most of the leadership were designers. And it's actually really helpful. You just got to remember that you are a designer and you're just designing for different people, and you're designing the thing that you're designing is different. So you're no longer designing the tool itself. I mean, you might be the apps or the products that you're working on. But you're also designing the collaboration space. You're designing the strategy, and we're making sure human beings are at the center of your decision making, and that other people understand that you're keeping people at the center of all your decision making. And then solving problems with a design mindset. Like whenever you're workshopping ideas and solutioning, you can solve the same, you can tackle it in the same way that you tackle a design. So if there's issues with working styles or, some sort of collaboration issue, identify the problem, do some research, jump into ideation and concepting, and then like get tested on people, and then, launch. You can do the same thing that you were doing as a designer. You're just doing it on, your environment, making sure your team is working well together, or they understand the strategy, or upper leadership understands, like the leadership buy-in we were just talking about. You can approach that from a design point of view and use your storytelling skills so that people are thinking about the design, the experience, the people at the center.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. So before we pivot, I want to pivot into advice for senior designers specifically, and then I want to jump into Q&A because it looks like we've got some really awesome questions in the chat. I wanted to ask if anyone here wanted to speak to what is the difference between management and leadership, and what do those things mean? I know that there's a lot of folks here that are probably either mid to senior level and would like to learn how they can really level up, and what does that look like? And, like I talked about very briefly, I feel like influence is a big part of that, in addition to just your hard skill set. Does anyone want to take that on? Don't be shy.
I can't unless someone else wants to.
No, do it, Joey. Go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot actually, because we have some leadership ICs on the team. They're principals. They lead the strategy. We also have management leaders on the team, and it's been a challenge defining like what that means, but actually it's really helpful to think about what is the difference between general leadership and like people management. People management is all about individuals on your team. Are they moving forward in their career? Are they gaining the skills that they need? Are they hitting their goals? Or do they need help and support to hit their goals, or work with their teams, that type of thing, design culture, etc. Leadership, anyone can display leadership. It doesn't matter if you're an IC or a manager. And also there are managers that don't display leadership. Like they go hand in hand, but they also could be, they're a little bit different. And leadership really is just you leading the conversation regardless of what it is. So, if you, this project that we're going to tackle, how will you do that? And having a perspective on the approach or how to do it, bringing people together, getting other people involved and wanting to collaborate and work with you, that is leadership. Sam mentioned some good examples at the beginning too of like coaching, but you're not managing. It's kind of like working with others and mentorship and having people see you as someone that does have maybe not have the answers, but will know how to get the answers and support the team as a whole in the direction of where you want to go.
I love that answer because I think sometimes we're all expecting ourselves to have all the answers. I had a really great conversation earlier today with a dev, and we were literally talking about that very thing, is that we all don't know everything and we all bring different things to the table. And I love that. That's great. Does anyone else have anything they wanted to add to that?
I'll just throw in, I had a staff designer who worked for me in the past, and they would say that, and they never wanted to be a manager, but they were an incredible leader. And they would say their perspective was the only difference between management and like leadership as an IC was that they didn't have to deal with all the HR stuff. They didn't have to do the reviews. They didn't have to, deal with comp and all the. All right, there's some truth to that because this individual contributor was an incredible mentor, and many people went to them for feedback, and they had great influence across the company. So it really is interesting, and I'm sure it's very company specific. Obviously as a manager, those folks, you are responsible for them. So there is definitely another level of responsibility beyond just HR. But it's I still think you can be as just as strong as a leader or even stronger. You don't have to just be a manager to get there.
Yeah, that's right. Juhi, I have a question for you. What steps should senior designers take now if they want to move into management? Do you have any recommendations there?
Um, I can maybe talk about what worked for me and what didn't work for me. So I think that can help out. So what worked for me is you got to know the craft of design. There's no skipping it. I don't recommend moving into management just to skip the design process because then you won't be able to help actually. Because if you don't know how the production happens, you won't be able to give feedback, you won't be able to do Figma reviews. So something that really helped me is I used to think my IC background might be a disadvantage, but it actually was an advantage for me. So please, I do recommend going in Figma, learn it the hard way, just learn ins and out of any other tool you're using, if not Figma, but definitely have hold on that. I think second would be for management is communication and I think presenting is important because it's not just the design itself, is being able to sell the design almost. You should be able to communicate. So I think that is a good skill to have, which is one I missed. So that's what I'm learning in this role now. So I ended up becoming good IC, but then, I think because you're an IC, you do less communication. So I ended up, you've got to learn that as well. So I learned it the hard way. I'm still learning, as you all can see. But yeah, those are the two things I recommend.
Okay. Anyone else have any recommendation around that before we jump into Q&A?
I think one more thing to think about is finding opportunities to show leadership. I think Sarah mentioned this at the beginning too. Is if there is a opportunity to improve something on the team or improve something, like volunteer for those things, and then you can learn more leadership. You can show your leadership. You get more visibility. Those are things you can do before you become a manager, and just kind of see the world from the view of helping a full team rather than just your initiatives or your product areas.
And I think whether you're in a startup or an established company, like even helping around process, right? Like there's certain things that it's like, if I could, do something like this with my team and my team had this process, it would make it so much easier. Think about things like that. I think could be really, really helpful for folks too. Okay, so I have a great question here from Pei. I hope I'm saying your name right, Pei. And you feel free to jump on too if you'd like. So she said, I have a question that's been bugging me that I'd love to know about. So how do you manage designers and team members who have more experience than you? How do you let them trust your experience level and your expertise? Anyone want to take that one?
I can maybe just add. You always want to get designers, team members who are better than you. That's because I think as designers, you got to add value and got to find the gaps of knowledge in the team and fill in those gaps. So always, yes, they should be better than you. They should know more than you. They should know things you don't know. And that's not something, uh, you know, as a manager you feel threatened about, you actually feel great because that's your learning opportunity as well. Just because you're a manager doesn't mean you don't exist. Like, you're still human. You got to learn and move on. And so yes, always find people. When we do hire, at least in our company, we're absolutely looking for folks who knows more. So please don't shy away from showing your skills. Do put it out there. And it's okay to be smarter than your manager. Manager would appreciate. I think Sam and Joey would agree with that as well.
I was going to say you probably also want to build a team that's really complementary to one another. Like, you might have someone who's really strong in this way and someone. So I think I can't even imagine feeling, like I'm sure, everyone has it again. It's that little bit of that imposter syndrome. But I think you have to just be like, you bring something really valuable to the table that they may not. And so that's the thing, is that we all have such unique perspectives, unique skill sets, and we all bring something different. And so I think that's, you got to think of it that way. Did you want to jump in and ask anything else, Pei? Did I cover your question? I'm going to take that as a yes, maybe. Okay. All right. So I have one more general question for the panel. I'm not a manager and don't have much experience in that area. So I've always wondered, what is a good way to handle confrontation within your team? For example, one of your direct reports is slacking on their work. How would you handle that? And that's from Shannon. Sam, I'm going to pick on you. Or Joey, I'm going to pick on you because you just
Oh,
unmuted. One of you.
you muted first,
No,
benches.
you went first, Joey. I know you did.
This
Go
one's
for
a
it.
tough one because it's the least fun part of your job, right? I'm sure
Mhm.
there are worse parts, but this is the one that is like the learning opportunity for new managers. Um, your job, you're responsible for your team. Like, your job is you're responsible for their performance, and so the best thing you can do is to talk to them, let them know what your expectations are. Here are the gaps. These are actions that you can take to address those gaps. Let's talk about them. Let's work together. Make sure they feel like you're in it together and you're not just like criticizing them, but you're wanting to like solve things with them. So if they're slacking off, for example, let them know that it seems like you're not showing up the way that we would expect of a senior designer, for example. These are ways you can do that more, or here are some options, and outlining that and making sure it's clear that, and then making sure there's agreement too. So you start with asking them, like, how do you feel like you show up? Because from other people's point of view, you're not engaged, or you're, not hitting your goals, you're letting down the team, like any example that you can think of, you just got to talk about it. That's it. Um don't shy away from those conversations, because they actually help the person improve their role, but it also helps everyone else who's like dealing with a slacking coworker, right?
Yeah. Sam, what were you gonna? I think Sam had some thoughts too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, Joey, I think you're one of the books that you is top of your list is Radical Candor, right? And so that, or Crucial Conversations, I agree with Joey. It's your job, and feedback is a gift. And I know that's so cliche, but
Yeah.
feedback is, if you're not sharing that feedback with that person, that they're not, performing well or performing to what they agreed, they would do, like you're letting them down. And that and you have to think of that ripple effect that it has on the team and how it could be affecting other people. It's absolutely not easy. One of my favorite methods is to come up with these little, I do conversation diagrams, so it gives me a cheat to do some drawing too. But I very much, and I practice what I'm going to say every time before I have a conversation like this. And it's, you focus on the facts, like, here's what happened, here's the actions, here's how it made me feel. And then I ask, is everything okay? What was going on? Because you don't assume, right? And by doing that, then they have an opportunity to speak to what's going on, and you can learn, and then ideally have more of a candid conversation that way. But yeah, it's definitely an important part of the job, and not the most fun, but a very important.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to the next question I have, does anyone want to come off camera and ask another question while we're doing some Q&A? Feel free to raise your hand or just jump on, don't worry. Oh, it looks like I did get another question. So when does a business start looking for a design manager or a staff manager, and what do they look for? I'm going to pick on you, Juhi. I know you've got it.
I think for me, I saw it differently in 2 or 3 different companies. So one company was 3,000 people. It looked different for them. And then currently it's a little smaller, it's 100 people. Um, and the other was 100,000 people, so that's a different story altogether. So I would say it depends on the size of the company and the needs of the company and the resources. There's a chart for design leveling that management has, which has from designer one, designer two, senior designer, staff, principal, whatnot. And there are 2 paths. Once you reach the highest level, there is IC path. So you can stay an IC and become a strong IC with a lot of ownership, or you can go into a management route, which starts with principal level. So with my experience, smaller teams actually doesn't have management path so much because they have strong ICs because of the place they are in. They're trying to build the product. So a lot of the resources actually goes in the building experience itself. So managers are also building. But once you reach that mid-size company, I think 1,500, that's when we got our first UX manager, to be honest, when we were at 1,500. So if you're looking for more management roles, you might want to look at bigger organizations that have that set up to do it. So that would be, I think that's the cutoff I've seen. Under 1,500, less roles, but over 1,500 employees, you will have more design manager, staff manager roles. Is that the question? That I hope I answered the question or no?
You did, and something you said just now that made me think was just about looking at levels. Like every company is going to have levels, so they'll have designer 1, 2, 3. Sometimes it's senior, junior. Like they're all different, different types of levels. But something to think about for folks that are in their, in senior positions and they're looking to level up. It's something I'm personally doing is, trying to see what the next level looks like. Ask your manager for that actual job description or that JD, and just start looking at what that is and start trying to anticipate those needs and start trying to, if you don't have the skills in that area, how can you get better in those skills? Can you take some courses? Can you sit in on the LinkedIn Learning? There's so many different things, right? What is it, Coursera and Udemy, and they have so many courses like that kind of thing. So if you don't have the skills to get to that next level, maybe you're a mid-level and you're trying to get to senior, start looking at those next levels and seeing how you can anticipate the needs of the company and start building your own skills. That was something that Juhi just kind of triggered in my brain. But before I go into my next question, I wanted to drop this into the chat. We have some resources here, and I just wanted a full disclosure. Oh no, is it too big? Oh, it says that I have too many. All right, I'll take this one off then. Is that going to work? There we go. Okay. So I put some links together for some resources for everyone. I know that everyone here, the panelists, had a couple of recommendations. I love Julie Zhao. If anyone hasn't read her book, or she actually has a fantastic, she does like weekly, actually it might be like maybe bi-weekly, but anyway, she does emails that are great. She's such a great leader. She was one of the original founders of Facebook, and she's just beyond, and she's just fantastic. I love her. So did anyone else want to give any other recommendations? I dropped a couple things in the chat. Did anyone want to talk about those? Something else. Oh,
I know
sorry.
we talked a little bit about it, that I feel like Making of a Manager was just such a good book for someone like switching directly from being an IC to a manager. She kind of tackles the things that people are embarrassed to talk about, like, oh, now I'm now managing my peers, and I feel like they think I'm telling them what to do. Like she actually writes all that stuff out in an approachable way, and you kind of really understand like how she was feeling at the time, and then you can apply, how her strategies onto how you're doing and experiencing those. And then radical candor, Sam just mentioned earlier, but I do really like that. And this is coming from somebody who is a recovering people pleaser. Like this is just something that I've dealt with. I want people to like me. It's a whole thing. And when you get into leadership, you cannot just like focus on that. You have to think about your role and your job. And part of that is telling the truth and being honest and letting people know when they're not meeting expectations, and And it's framing it in a way where you understand that you're actually doing the right thing, right? Telling someone they're not meeting expectations is going to support the rest of the team. And you want the rest of your team to also be able to do their roles really well. And you want that person to be able to grow as well. And so that's just something I really like from that book.
Yeah.
Joy, I did that book with some managers and other managers in my design group, and it was like therapy. So like be
Yes.
prepared. You have to be willing to talk about the stuff, but very therapeutic and just very real. So I would second that book for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I dropped something at the very end of the chat, Lee Rossini's approach. I think he came from Microsoft, and my manager had actually recommended if you go on his LinkedIn, I wish I could put an image in the chat. It's such a simple little, set of like guidelines and principles. But they're really interesting. So you might want to take a look at that. It's if you scroll down past his bio, you'll see a little thing, and it's really simple. It's don't get too excited, but it's a really great simple way to approach something that makes it a little bit more actionable and a little bit more like, okay, I can do this. And so I think it's really valuable to take a look at that too. And I love the books that we have listed there. Miss Rosie, what do you got for us?
Hey, loving the talk so far. I'm not sure which of your teams work remotely. I know that some companies are hybrid now or fully in office. But my question is when it comes to remote work, how do you show up as a leader? How do you help teams build rapport when everything's done remotely?
It's a good question. I'm going to actually direct this to Sam because I know Sam works both in Seattle and in California. And so I'm going to direct because I know she does a little bit of both.
Yes, my company is technically anybody can be remote. There's no requirement. If you do happen to live near a hub, they want you to go into the office, and sadly, it's in Santa Barbara, California. So who doesn't want to go there? But it's interesting. We're actually just going through tomorrow. We're going to share an update on rituals, UX rituals within our organization. There's about 50 designers in our group, and we are highlighting, and I would say 75% of the team's remote, but everything we do is remote friendly. We're highlighting like those connection points. So we have different types of rituals that are about growth, learning opportunities. And then we have ones that are specifically focused on socialization and fun. And so that's one critical piece, I would say, Rosie, is you absolutely have to make the time to connect. And as a manager, you have to show up to those things. So it's one thing to set them up and say, okay, everybody go get together. But if you're not there and you're not participating, people are going to notice. And so I think that's one thing. So have the fun, make sure you show up. And it's just, you also have to figure out as a group what feels comfortable for everybody. I know with my group, there are a lot of folks who get Zoom fatigue, right? And so they don't want to sit with their cameras on all day. So in certain meetings, I'll say, hey, with this meeting, please show up as you need to. If you need your camera off, that's great. And in certain cases, in certain meetings, maybe it's important for everybody to have their camera on. But if people know that ahead of time, I think that can also help set expectations. And then the last thing I would say is just flexibility around schedule can be important. I think one of the folks who enjoy being remote, one of the benefits can be that you can, do things, in terms of taking care of your child or walking your dog or doing your laundry, whatever you need to do. But it helps you, right? Or in different ways. And so I think providing some of that flexibility and being able to lean into quality of work and not quantity. And, again, lucky that my company isn't like you have to show up, punch your card. It's more, let's see the work that's done and focus on getting together with your team. Then I think that tends to work pretty well. And it's interesting, they've done a poll recently over satisfaction, like we do, NSAT, how's everybody in the company feeling? And those who are working in an office and those who are remote, it's the actual exact same NSAT. Mm-hmm. So our company's really done a lot in order to make sure that folks who are remote feel valued and welcome.
Nice. Does anyone else have any thoughts around Rosie's question? We have one more question in the chat that I would love to get to because this is a really good one. This is from Helen. Who is the best design manager you've ever met or you've ever had, and why?
I just added one from my, honestly, I feel like as I think about managers, it's such an interesting thing because manager play a big role on your growth at a company and your future. It is, it's a hard truth. So you always want to make sure you find the right fit for yourself. And not every manager, it's not the manager is good or bad. You just might not have that, partnership with that person. So yeah, manager plays a big role. And all my roles have 90% was dependent on managers. So I just had really, really good, solid design managers. And one, I added just a example profile. He was, design manager at Elastic, VP of brand at Sneak, so really big, dev tooling that he was there for. And uh, the one thing that I really liked about him was he was talented designer, which is okay, but he was just really secure and confident. He would get on a call and there was not a need for him to talk all the time. He would be very confident and stay quiet, and he would let like other folks kind of go through the call, and he would, come and help out when people are kind of struggling. And I'm still, to be honest, trying to learn that. I'm not there yet, but that being able to confidently present yourself, take pauses, and it's okay to do that. I think he was, just really good. He also taught me one other thing that I want to mention to the group here is try to gather skills, not title. When I was going for the other role, and he said, don't run after a title, whether you're head of X or head of Y, go for the skill. Is this company going to add value to your career? Not 5 years career, but 50 years. Do you see yourself in 50 years? Are these skills going to help you live your life confidently? So yeah, there are a lot of like these things that managers teach you that just helps you become a good human being as well. So yeah, just added an example there.
I love that. Joey.
This is a hard question because I don't know if there's a best design manager. The one thing that I ascribe to in general is that everyone has pros and cons. Everyone has strengths and opportunities. And I've had design managers that were great in one area but not in others, and they all taught me different skills depending on if, that was a good skill that I thought would be useful in my own practice as a leader. And so kind of just grasping all these different people. I can drop a bunch of LinkedIn's if people want to see. But I've had design managers who are really great at people leadership, and they like really understand how to create trust in a team and get culture excited, but maybe not as strong in strategy. So I can think about like my other manager being really strong in strategy and being someone that everyone wants to that can influence upper leadership and then get everyone contributing to that vision and strategy. And that's something I admired from that person. And so there's these different it's kind of different aspects of management. I haven't found one that like hit everything to be the best.
Yeah. Sam, I'm going to give this question to you too. You don't necessarily have to name the person per se and put their LinkedIn on or anything, but just what were some of the qualities and what were some of the things that made you feel like you grew in your own career?
Great at asking me questions and then letting me think through them. So not necessarily doling advice. Good positive energy. I'm attracted to that positive energy kind of person. And thought I could do anything, like would elevate me, think I was fearless, even though I might have been having a bad day or imposter syndrome. And so that their belief in me just, would help propel me.
I
So
love
those are three things.
you kind of said something about just being an active listener and really
Yes.
Yeah.
it's because Juhi said something kind of similar to where it's like you're able to kind of figure it allows someone to have the space to figure something out on their own a little bit, maybe.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. I love that.
Yep.
Nice. Well, we're at time. I don't know if anyone else has a question or you want to jump off your camera, but we will be putting this on our YouTube channel. We did record this, and awesome. My friend Prabha here has put some great stuff in the chat. We will be publishing this later, and please feel free to take the resources. But if anyone doesn't have any other questions, we might call it good for the evening. Thank you so much to everyone, all the great comments and feedback. This was awesome.
Great.
Anyone? Uh-oh, Rosie. Rosie's back.
Oh no. And
Sorry, I ask a lot of questions.
No, I love your
Um,
question, Rosie.
Mine is asking a little bit of advice from people who manage other people. I'm a content designer in my team. We're a very small place. Sam might know, Second Nature is where I work.
Oh, yeah.
And so one of the things that I've been doing a lot of is trying to teach people about content design and what it is and how to upskill. How do you help designers who don't have the same skill set as you feel a little bit more confident taking on a different type of work that they're not used to? Because I know you mentioned like, oh, everybody should bring something different to the team. So how do you help other people gain the confidence of saying, oh, this person's better, instead of saying this person's better than me, it's like, oh, this person is someone I can learn from.
Anyone? Sam?
Oh, so let me make sure I got your question, Rosie. It's how do you how you help them to see that it's okay that somebody has a better skill or a different skill and you want to learn from that as opposed to them shutting down.
Yeah, like helping them be more confident in taking on that new skill set and like testing it
Yeah.
out.
It's interesting because it sometimes can, I think for me, it's finding the thing that connects their curiosity. Um, I recently have someone that I've been working with on design vision, and I've worked with other folks on design vision. It's something that we've been, having more emphasis on in my company. And one person had no interest whatsoever. And the other had an interest, and it was through that exercise of seeing that they were interested that you could help like kind of bolster different skill sets that they had. So whether it was, if they were kind of harsh on their wireframing or whatever, being able to spend some time focusing on that through this project that I was, pairing with them on. And I think too, one of the things that's important about, again, it depends on the person, but with pairing is in as much as possible, like allowing them to do the work. And again, it's about asking questions. It comes back to the coaching aspect, because the more that you say, the less they have the opportunity to really think about themselves. And usually when people come up with something themselves or realize something themselves, it sticks more and it becomes more personal, right? So I think if you can, and whether it's specifically supporting them on a skill or, hey, I know you haven't been feeling great about wireframes. Why don't you show them to me and let's talk through some of them? And, you don't want to fake it, right? And say, no, that isn't, that's great when it's not. But again, rather than saying that's bad, it's like, hey, have you thought about this? Like, and again, it's the thought-provoking questions and trying to get them to learn. That's typically been my approach, is just really leaning into their curiosity. I'm not sure if that answered your question. But.
No, that's really awesome. Thank you so much. Making them work through it and just helping them out a little bit. Not trying to give them all the answers.
Yes,
Is that
it can be hard
okay?
though, because you got them, and you just want to be like, do this.
I don't have all the answers. I never act like I do. There's so many variables. I'm like, gonna talk to Deb about that. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. They also, it's okay for them to fail too. That's the other thing. Hopefully, again, depends what environment you work in. I work in a very safe environment where we're encouraged to fail through learning, and that's great. So it's sometimes a better way is like, if you want to correct them, don't let them do it, see what happens, and then talk to them afterwards. You might end up learning in the end, right?
That is so true. It's, we've gotten a little cheesy and even say fail fast, right? But the thing is that if you don't fail and you don't like learn from your mistakes, how are you going to get better? So you have to try to create that space for people. I think it's so important. That was an awesome question. Thank you, Rosie. Anyone else? We are over time. So if not, I think we're going to cut it. Anybody? Well, again, I want to thank everyone so much for joining us tonight. This was awesome. And this was a really great panel. I personally learned a lot. So I'm really grateful for all three of you. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Juhi. And thank you, Sam. And thank you again to Prabha for helping me out and having all of our questions together. And I look forward to seeing all of you at our next events. Again, keep an eye out for us on LinkedIn and Instagram and also Meetup. So thanks so much. Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.